What is consciousness? And what does it mean to truly live life awake? Welcome to Clarity to Consciousness, a podcast where we transcend beyond stereotypes, embracing a deeper understanding. I'm your host, Kristen Griffiths, a fellow seeker on this path. Join me on a journey as we dive into conversations with experts, unraveling stigmas, and expanding our awareness to something profound. This is your invitation to open your mind with me as together we bring clarity to the fascinating complexities of human consciousness. Welcome back to Clarity to Consciousness, the show where we explore fascinating and complex topics of consciousness. I'm your host, Kristen Leigh Griffiths, and today we're exploring a topic that decades ago most people probably had never heard of. But now it's steadily becoming more mainstream, and that spiritual conversation is about the Akashic Records. And whether you've heard of them before, maybe you dabbled in it, but you want to understand more, that's a rhyme. This episode is your Akashic Records 101. And there's no better guide for this journey than my guest today. She's a spiritual mentor, intuitive guide, and Akashic Records practitioner whose work helps people reconnect with their deeper truths of who they are. With a background in energy healing, esoteric wisdom, and quantum teachings, she channels from the records to offer soul-aligned guidance, support deep healing, and catalyze profound personal evolution. She believes that the Akashic Records aren't just for spiritually elite, they're for everyone. And today she's going to help us understand what they are, how they work, and how you can start accessing this incredible resource for yourself. I'm so excited to welcome Stephanie Potter to the show. Welcome, Stephanie.
Hey, everybody. That was a great lead-in. Thank you so much. You make me feel really special, but I'm an everyday woman, still human.
You are special, but I can understand the sentiment there. Stephanie, before we dive into the Akashic Records, can you help us understand a little bit more about your story? What makes you so human and relatable to our audience today?
For sure. I appreciate that. Well, just a big hello to your community. I love the idea of everybody trying to start the spiritual path, whatever it looks like for everyone, right? And so for me, I would say I had like a pretty normal childhood. I grew up in South Jersey, right outside of Philadelphia, and always had an interest in metaphysical, but never really got into it until pretty much right about when I graduated college. And it was kind of because I felt like there was more to religion. So like the religion I had grown up with, which was like very light, just didn't have all the answers that I needed, right? And so I kind of went out on this search of like looking at different religions and metaphysical and the spiritual and really trying to find my own answers, which I encourage everyone to do. And so that's really where this started for me. I had been able to work with really incredible mediums before. And so seeing how much healing they brought to somebody like me who has had a lot of family that's passed, that kind of opened the door too to say like, maybe there's something to these different spiritual modalities that could bring healing, hope, faith, clarity to people. And that's really where my walk began.
So I can relate to the religion topic because I remember this being a profound experience for me when I started dating a guy and he's Catholic. And this is I'm not about to throw shade on the Catholics, but it was a little bit interesting. And I'm Lutheran, which is like Catholic light, and I'm not necessarily a practicing Lutheran anymore, but that's how I grew up. And it's a little different, but not like worlds different. Anyway, and I definitely felt like the difference in our religion was a huge problem. And I felt very unaccepted. And that's such a crappy feeling not to feel accepted, and it's because of religion, and he just happened to be Catholic. So anyway, I too felt like, what is like religion? This stuff doesn't really resonate with me anymore, and that was a big part of my shift as well.
I would like also add for the record, I don't like to be told what to do. And so religion feels like you're telling me what my beliefs are, and they can only be within this realm, and here are all the answers. And when you push, sometimes, depending on the religion, you get backlash as to like, well, why are you even questioning? And that's kind of why I think we're here, right? So I think it's about not only how do we you know, maybe use the religion that we like or maybe find a new one, but also how do we add like a topper of spirituality? And so what is that walk with a higher power or whatever that looks like for you? And I think part of the reason we're here is to figure that out. Unfortunately, we tend to figure these things out when we're on our knees, when something bad has happened. And so I encourage everyone to of course, find some sort of religion or belief then, but really help you help yourself by starting to figure out, well, what does this mean to me? What do I believe my own religion to be? And does it have to be a religion? So what are the practices that are meaningful to me? What are the rituals that are meaningful to me? And then how do I believe that I want to be reflected in my community and my family? And then how do I interact with whatever higher power you believe in? And to me, that feels like the first steps of trying to figure out, who are you in this walk, right? Who do you count on when the things start to go a little bit left? And you're trying to figure out kind of, how do I pick myself back up again? And so for me, that was part of this walk, right? And so I absolutely was able to find things that were different spiritual modalities that give us these little clues to learn more about ourselves and our souls. So when we look at things like human design, Eastern and Western astrology, so Vedic and then Western astrology, when we look at things like tarot cards or numerology, like there's little pieces of truth in all of these. And it really helps you start to figure out, who am I in relation to this walk, whether you believe that we incarnate once and then we are done, or whether you believe that we incarnate many times as a soul and have past lives and future lives. Really, the focus is on, well, what are you here to do today with this soul, with this self? And what are your beliefs at your core? We've got so many layers these days around identity and work and family and responsibilities that we get further and further away from who we are and what we truly believe, which I call our big T truth. And so that comes out a lot. And that also helped me get closer to finding the Akashic Records.
That was really, really good. Okay. The other question before we get into the Akashic Records I had was, sounds like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you were not necessarily born with gifts per se. You maybe grew into them, or you developed this ability, which I think there was a time when I thought you had to be born with this. Like I would never be a medium because I wasn't born with these special abilities. And the older I get and the more access to these skills I get, the more I realize that this isn't necessarily true. It's almost like playing an instrument. Some people can pick up the violin and play it immediately, while others need to work at it a little bit, but eventually they can play it and do it well. So how did your gifts come online?
Yeah, I love that question because it dispels so much, right? We hear these incredible stories of people that were born being able to see people that have passed, or that have telepathy, or, whatever it might be, or had these incredible spiritual awakenings. And then all of a sudden they could just have some sort of gift down. And so what I'd love to dispel is that actually everybody has spiritual gifts. And so we could even look at them as like, spiritual skills, just like you said, like playing the piano or learning Excel or coding in computers, right? Like those are gifts, right? Like to be able to do that, right? I mean, you can talk to any hairdresser that's ever had to do an updo in 30 minutes. You know what I mean? That's a gift, right? Right.
True.
So what I would say is the cool thing is that everybody has what we'll call spiritual gifts. Okay. The less exciting or more exciting thing is that you have to figure out what yours are, and nobody's are the same. So it's just like you said, there are things that we do really easily in life. Some people are great at math. Unfortunately, that's not me. Ask any of the math teachers I had growing up. I was very good at geometry. That's the only one. But there are things that I do well, right? So for me, writing always came easy. History, speaking in public, things like that, which speaking in public for a lot of people does not come easily either, right? And so the idea is by starting to do different practices, starting with your intuition, you can start to figure out, how do I get information that I can't see, hear, feel, or touch with the senses that I use every day? And so as you start to open up, now, let me be clear, there are people that, again, are natural mediums, and that is wonderful. But can people learn mediumship with with the right intent, I should say? So having the right intent in your heart and enough practice? Absolutely. Do I think every single spiritual gift every person can learn? Probably not. It really comes down to who you are, what your walk is, and how unique you are. But I would definitely like to tell people that everybody has gifts. And that feels really nice, because sometimes you feel excluded. You see people that can do these incredible things, and you're like, man, I wish I could do that. And the answer is you can. We just don't know what it is yet.
So how did yours come online?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Back to that part of the question.
Let me out of that one.
Yeah. So I feel like I've told this a lot recently, but for your audience, The idea was after I graduated college, we'll say a long time ago, a few decades, I really started taking in information. So very all the metaphysics I could, to the point where I was when I was traveling for work, I was listening to books on CD. That ages me. Books on CD. So John Edwards, Sandra Brown, all people that were coming out at that time, you name it, Hay House author or whatever it might be. And so originally I thought mediumship, I'm like, man, I really prayed. I'm like, mediumship would be so cool because the people that can do it well, transparently, with integrity, can bring so much healing to people. And I would love to be able to do that. But for me, that's not the first gift that came online. And so what I was doing is I was taking in all the information. I was listening to the podcasts, reading the books, doing all of those things, watching the webinars, watching the videos. The problem was I wasn't doing the work. So what does that mean? It means that anytime there was an exercise or a practice, I'd be like, nope, next page, please. So that's really getting in there and having a little fear about what if this doesn't work? What if I don't know it? What if I don't get any information? What if I don't have any gifts? All of these different things. And so in ignorance, I started to teach myself things like human design and astrology. And the ignorance part of it was that I thought these are really scientific when you get to learn them. And so potentially, even if I don't have any gifts, I can learn enough about this that I can work with it and potentially help other people. Now, the ignorance was there is a lot of intuition that goes into that and gifts, but I didn't know that, right? But it felt more approachable. And so as I started doing that, I had some layoffs and some things happen in my personal life to where I actually had a little bit of money to take a class. And so I was like, okay, if I'm going to take a class where I'm showing up, I need to find one that's going to make me do the work. It's going to make me do practice sessions, going to make me either get certified or whatever it is. And so by doing that and having that fear, but doing it with other people that had the same fears, that were figuring out their gifts and awakening, that really helped me. So 2 people I worked with specifically, Brenda Pell, she's got 2 classes that I did for Akashic Records. And then Nikki Novo, she does a soul reading method and has several different classes, and they help people figure out, do I have gifts? The answer is yes. But what are they? And then how do I build up using them and start to trust myself with them?
Awesome. Yeah, I think the trust is the hardest part, because I've taken courses too, but when it just comes to my own intuition and listening to the messages I get, it took a while to recognize the difference between my own self-talk and then what's a true message. And I think what I've realized is that if it's negative, it is not an intuitive message. That's just your ego.
I will tell you with everything, every bone in my body, that is correct. So anything from spirit or extraordinary, an extrasensory perception, is going to come from a place of love. A tidbit that I'd give to your community is that what I learned is actually a lot of these things come in your own voice. So a lot of times when it's a really simple message, when you get a download of information that you wouldn't have known otherwise, but it's coming in your voice or you're hearing something, most of the time, even for me who's clairaudient and sometimes can hear spirit, generally it's coming in my own voice. I just have to use my inner guide, my inner feeling to know, is that something that I thought of, or is that something that's coming in for me in a beautiful way? And so again, anything from that ego, that fear, anxiety, anything in that negative vibration is never going to be. And I don't talk in a lot of absolutes, but I will tell you this absolute, it will definitely not be from spirit or anything that you're getting if it's negative.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. And the other thing I wanted to say, and let me know if you think this is true too, is sometimes the message or the answer will come so quickly that the answer comes before the question's even asked in my own mind. It's almost like they heard my question and it already knows the answer, versus sometimes if it takes a while. I don't know if that's always the truth, but I almost feel like when I'm meant to hear it, it comes so fast and quickly, instant.
I would agree with that. And I would add, I'd say yes. And it depends on the vibration that you're in, because my guess is that when you're getting that clarity, that quick hit of an info, it is because you're in a higher vibration. You're feeling good. You don't have negative thoughts. You're in a place of love and not fear or victimhood. And so that is something I would also share with the community and, agree with you, is that a lot of times that intuition comes through when you're in this headspace to listen. We do a good job as humans, especially in the US, of talking, whether it's to a higher power or to ourselves or in journaling, whatever it is, but we're not real good at listening. And so sometimes when we stop and we listen and we get into our body and out of our head, that's when those answers come across. How many times have you had a brilliant idea when you were driving in the car after you zoned out, or while you were washing the dishes, or even in the shower? Because it's like your brain is on autopilot and you're in a high vibration and you're allowing those beautiful thoughts and comments to come through.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not to insult anybody, but a lot of times these ideas, I believe anyway, that these brilliant ideas that you get, they may not necessarily have come from you. They were transmitted to you. Do
Yeah.
you agree with that?
I do. I think like I wouldn't want people to be like, "Oh my gosh, so you mean that song I wrote wasn't something that I wrote?" And the answer is it is. You definitely wrote it. It could have come from your higher self or your soul, insert your beliefs here, or your spirit guides working with you. So it is still you. It's just a place of like true love and true essence and true light. And so the answer is yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because I think people do it every day. I would say think about times when you're doing something that you really like and then you get in the flow. So, like, I brought up a computer coder. They could be like working on code and look up and it's like 4 hours later. Well, they were channeling that whole time because they lost time and space and were in there doing it. Just like how you maybe start, maybe not a run because not everybody loves to run, but maybe you start a walk and then all of a sudden you're listening to music and you look up and it's like, oh, I've walked for 4 miles. And that's it. You're channeling, you're in that space, you're in a high vibration. And so people are doing this every day.
Yeah. I love that you made it more practical and relatable for people because I think people assume that it's like so crazy, wild, far out there. But the reality is that everybody pretty much does it.
Yes.
And it's not as wild and crazy as some people may think.
Right. And like, we have the culture of, we'll call it woo. I talked to
Hmm.
you a little bit when we met
Yeah.
about what I call the
Yeah.
sliding scale of woo.
Uh-huh.
And like, or we used to hear the new age, right? New age, metaphysical. And I'd like to say it's the now age, right?
Ooh, love
All of this
that.
stuff is coming to light, right? We're learning about how sound and light can heal us. We're understanding more about vibration and frequency. And so these things that, once felt like they had to come from a woman wearing a lot of turquoise and gauzy outfits are coming from somebody from New Jersey like me that spent most of her life in corporate, right? And
Yeah.
so here we are, the now age, my friends.
Love that. So, so good. This is so fun. I'm having so much fun chatting with you. Okay, so let's get into the Akashic Records. So, for people who are new to what this concept of Akashic Records is, can you give us a little explanation?
Absolutely. So I'm going to do my best to explain it, but bear with me because I'm going to go from what we were just talking about, a very spiritual point of view, as opposed to like the quantum physics
Mhm.
situation. And there are explanations from the quantum physics and the scientific. I'm just not qualified to tell you them.
Fair enough.
So we're going to go with the spiritual. And so the idea of the Akashic Records is they've actually been around since the beginning of time. And so for a lot of people, when we look at Judaism, Christianity, the Muslim faith, even the Sikh faith, and some of the other ones, Hinduism, it's noted as usually the book of life. So you'll find that in whatever your traditional religious text is, it's usually known as the book of life, except for in Hinduism, which is where Akasha, the word Akasha means ether, and it comes from the ancient Vedic texts. And the idea is this is an energetic record of anything that has ever existed, currently exists, and will exist that has energy. So we know with science that energy, it can't be taken away, right? It's got to be, it
Yeah.
could transform. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And so that's exactly it. And so anything that has energy, so we look at people, pets, plants, even events, homes, things like that, all have Akashic records. So that's kind of really a big deal, right? Because you're kind of like, you're connecting in with everything that's ever existed. Cool. That sounds legit.
Mhm.
And what I'm saying is I am, but what I look at it is from a soul level. So
Mm.
whether you believe that a soul incarnates once, like a one and done situation, or if you believe that we come here multiple times, we kind of, the way we picture it for our like teeny human brains is the Akashic Records is like a library. And so for each soul that's ever existed, again, one time or many times, they have a room at the library. And so if my soul's name is Bob, we'll keep it simple. I am in the incarnation of Stephanie Potter. I would go into the library, look for Bob's room, open the door, and in my belief, I would see several books of all my past, present, and future lives. I know that's getting super deep. So what I'd like to do is bring it back to how is this relevant for me today? And so what people need to understand is that they have access to their own Akashic record. And so it's kind of like a download of like, why did I come here? What am I trying to learn? What does my soul want me to know? Things like that. If you soul is a weird word for you, think about higher self, right? So the me, when I strip off anything that's like trauma or identity or anything that's ever existed, who am I at my core? Who's the real me? And so I have the gift of being able, with people's permission, to go into their Akashic record and bring through information to help somebody get clarity, healing, excitement about their life, and just kind of get answers around like, why are they here? How can they feel better? How can they be happier? And so bringing it back to an everyday phase, I can both hear from their higher self and then what I call their team in spirit. And so again, take that for what you will, insert your beliefs here. People believe in angels, spirit guides, loved ones that have passed, any of that, insert them there. And I'm able to connect with them as well and kind of answer questions for them by channeling information. So again, that is super woo. So sliding scale of woo at the other end. But for the everyday person that's learning, what they believe, the idea is that I bring through truth that helps you feel more aligned and happy and in flow in your life.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's just so interesting. Like, the idea of someone peeking into that for me, it was like so exciting. So yeah, I'll have to set up a reading with you too. And you do offer readings, one-on-one readings for people, right?
I do. I work with people one-on-one. I have very high integrity as far as I look at it like HIPAA. I won't even tell somebody that you've had a reading unless you tell me. And then of course, anything in a reading is completely confidential. But the idea is I actually open up your Akashic record in the reading. So you get to feel that energy. And then I go and give you kind of the download that I did beforehand. And then you actually prepare 3 questions, which I haven't seen. Usually my download covers a lot of the answers in that. Surprisingly, it shocks me every time. But then it gives you your guides, kind of give you 3D. What are things that I can do right now to make my life better, to make me feel happier, to understand what I'm going through? The things I will point out is the records will never tell you, they'll never answer yes or no. So they're not there to tell you exactly what to do. They're here for you. They'll give you more information. But when we ask questions, we ask things like what or how, sometimes why. But the idea is that we all have free will here, right? So we're still making it as humans every day. And so we want to learn and grow. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to feel the whole spectrum of emotions, all the way from unbelievable pain and grief to unbelievable joy and wonder. And so a lot of times what I bring through in the readings is how do we get closer to that? How do we deal with the pain and grief? And then how do we get closer and more of that joy and wonder?
Maybe it would be helpful to give some examples of good questions that people could ask. I'm wondering, is it sort of like opening up and looking at someone's future and here's where it could go type of thing? Is that kind of what you get asked a lot?
Yes and no. I get some timeline information, but I don't like to make predictions because I believe based on every action that we take in a day, our timeline can shift, right? Sure. Based on kind of what we're meant for. Do I think there are certain things that our soul or our higher self came here to learn that are kind of already in the plan? It just, not sure when or where that might happen. I believe that. Not everybody does. What people are really looking for is like some questions I would get is I have a partner, we have kids, I have a house, and, I should be happy, but I don't feel happiness, or I'm having a problem with my mother. I can't seem to figure out why I can never get out from the issues that we're having. What do I need to know about the situation? People ask, I don't feel like I'm on my soul's purpose or mission. What can I learn about that? What am I here to learn? Or what are the themes that I'm learning right now in my life? So, these can be really big questions, right? But sometimes the answers are so shifting. And a lot of times when your soul comes through, because I like to do that download before people ask the questions, because I want to know what's sitting in that mailbox for you. So if your higher self could tell you anything right now, what would it be today that's going to help shift you to a better, happier, more aligned, soulful life? And that's what that download is to me.
That's real. I mean, that's something that I think everybody would want to hear and understand. So that's helpful. What are some misconceptions people may have when it comes to this kind of work?
Yeah. So, like, the first thing I'd like to say is, like, again, I told you guys I was born in New Jersey. I'm a skeptic. It's in my blood. And so I don't believe everything that I hear as far as, like, when we get into spiritual or woo woo or any of that, right? For me, it's all about what can I see, feel, hear, and like what resonates. So, what I always say is take what resonates, leave the rest. We hear that a lot. And so the idea is, does something feel true at your core? Now, sometimes it's a message that you may or may not want to hear, and it might feel real true in 2 weeks, but it doesn't feel real true right now. Sometimes it's just not a good connection. There are people that go out and do work with Akashic Records or other spiritual modalities that, maybe they have some talent, but they don't have the best integrity or ethics around it. And so for me, I'd say find somebody that feels true in your heart, that feels like they have integrity. Maybe you've gotten referrals. So, because a lot of times this can cost a good bit of money. And so before you put your money there, do your research and listen to that person talk, listen to a video. Do they feel like they're here and they're come from a place of love instead of a place of, I'm trying to get your money or I have all the answers? There's a lot of times when I say, you know what, I'm not getting any information around that. I don't know. And that just basically means that either I'm not equipped to give you the answer or the answer isn't something that you need right now.
Yeah.
And so I would say look for people. And also, if you're interested, dip your toe in, man. The water's great here. So start figuring out how to use your intuition and potentially where your gifts lie. There are so many beautiful books, videos, podcasts that can talk about how do you do those initial exercises that help you understand how to use your intuition. You're probably already getting hits. You've probably had some sort of psychic coincidence or synchronicity that you're just writing off to like whatever. And know that the more you get in a line and the more you get in the flow and you feel good about the vibration in your life, the more these things start to unravel for you. And so I would tell people, start there. Absolutely. If you can afford a class or do a retreat, for sure do that. But that's not applicable to everybody. Let's find the easy things to see, how do I get these initial hits? How do I know what a yes feels like in my body and a no feels like in my body?
So important. I love that advice.
Yeah. Yeah. I would also say too, allow yourself to be a seeker, let yourself be curious. So like if you were to look at my bookshelf right now, you might think I was a schizophrenic, but I have everything from I'm learning chess right now, right? I never learned chess growing up. I'm like learning that. And it's interesting how even things in chess apply to spirituality. I've got books about, adaptogens and atomic habits and, all of the modalities in spirituality, you can think of. And so I've allowed myself to give myself grace around, I'm interested in this. Okay, I'm not interested in this. I'm going to listen to this. I'm going to listen to that. And just allow myself to wander. Sometimes I come back to astrology. Sometimes I go to astrology, but I go to Vedic astrology. And so that can be it with anything that you're passionate about. It doesn't even have to be spiritually. But a lot of times we don't allow ourselves to be that student or that curious seeker just wanting to learn more, even if it's about another religion. You're like, well, I've been in this practicing religion my whole life. It's got all my answers. Well, maybe there are answers in other religions. Check them out. Follow your sense, follow that intuition.
Yeah. So I'm curious what it's like for you when you're reading somebody. What's the experience like for you? Are you getting the intuitive messages in your own voice in your head, or does it sound like another voice, or maybe you don't hear a voice at all? Can you describe what that experience is?
Yeah, for sure. So when we talk about using intuitive gifts, you'll hear people talk about the clairs, and they are not mean girls from high school. They are actually what we talk about as like the different like senses that you have that are extraordinary, right? So we have clairvoyance, which most people are like know about. That means I can see the future. It means I can see like objects in my mind. Right? Is clairvoyance.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's physically seeing. So seeing aura or actual manifestations of spirit or whatever you might believe in. You have clairaudience, so clear hearing. So I'm hearing something that nobody else can hear. It's coming directly into my ears. You've got clear sentience, which is 40% of people start with clear sentience. And what that means is clear feeling. So whether you have a feeling that you feel something physically in your body or you feel an emotion in your body, those are things that are coming up. And so I'd give you an example of, have you ever walked into a room where two people just had a fight? And like, you didn't hear it, you didn't see it, but you can tell there's been some energy going on there.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's like you feel the energetic essence of what's going on in the room.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah. So you guys are probably already feeling that. Think about when you're at a concert and they're about to play that song that everybody loves and you get the chill bumps before they even play it because you're feeling, you feel that vibration going up in the room. So the last one I talk about is claircognizance. And this one sounds a little bit crazy if they don't all. Claircognizance, it's about getting downloads of information. So the idea is all of a sudden I have a bunch of information in my mind, an idea, whatever it is that didn't come from my own ego or my own self. But yet I'm able to remember it, write it down, talk about it, that sort of thing. So I would also say you guys probably get a lot of what we call downloads on the regular. Those are the things that pop into your head when you are washing the dishes and you completely forgot or you got a new idea. And so for me, clairvoyance is the least strong. So I'm not seeing a ton. But what I do is I get clairaudience and claircognizance. So for the download part, when I open the records, I channel and I actually automatic write. And so as I'm hearing something a sentence at a time, I'm actually sitting down, writing that down for about 30 minutes. When I meet with somebody, we open their records and we've got that energy flowing. Then I'm channeling because I'm using clairaudience. So we're asking questions to their guides and I'm able to hear kind of the answers and get the impressions. So for me, the two strongest are going to be clairaudience and claircognizance as well as clairsentience. I do a little bit of mediumship if people's loved ones that have passed come in and it's for healing reasons. Sometimes I'll do some mediumship there. And then sometimes it's medical mediumship as well. I can feel like, oh, you have a pain in your neck or you've hurt your foot or things like that. And so I like to use all of my senses and I'm developing the clairvoyance, but that's really what it feels like for me. The way that I am able to open myself up is I use a prayer to get into the records. So there's many different ways to get into the records. Everybody connects differently. But for me, a very easy on and off button is opening myself up with that intention at the beginning and then closing the records at the end. And so that allows me to have like a nice channel, a nice space to like get this information, but then shut it down.
Yeah. Cool. I have a question for you. Maybe I probably should ask you this beforehand, but would you be able or open to giving the audience a message today from the Akashic Records? Is that possible?
Yeah, so I can try. I actually opened the records before I started here because I wanted to make sure, well, I am channeling right now. I wanted to make sure I put out the intention of being able to be the clearest channel for your listeners, right? To make sure that I was asking my ego to get out of the place. It's not about me, right? It's about everybody learning about the Akashic Records, right? Yeah. And so let me take a second here and just see what comes in. So I get chills in my knees. The message that comes in the most is about fear. A lot of us are living in a lot of fear, stress, doubt, anxiety, which all roll back to fear. And so the message right now is to take a look at how you're feeling in all these places where you're inviting fear into your life. Are you doom scrolling? Are you opening up social media and are you watching the news? Are you doing all of these things where you're thinking you're doing it in your off time, but you're actually taking the time when your brain and your heart could be reconnecting and you're opening up, so to speak, all these tabs in your head, whether you're consciously or unconsciously doing it. And so what they're saying is take a break. There's so much going on personally with people as well as out in the environment. And the biggest thing they're saying is take a break, even if it's a few days, and see how you feel. Because we think we're turning off our brain by doom scrolling or watching cat videos. And I love a cat video, don't get me wrong. But what they're saying is it's actually opening up these tabs in your mind and your emotions and your nervous system. So you're not ever really getting a break. And so what they're saying is go outside, play with your children, do something physical, get into your body, start cooking a meal, whatever it is, but get off and again, not a negative, but just putting it in a positive spin of like, this is something negative that we're all doing. And we're not giving our mind, body, soul, spirit room to recover. We're not letting they're describing like our nervous system, like that release. And so then we're having trouble sleeping at night. We're drinking more coffee during the day. We're maybe having extra alcohol, whatever it might be. And so we need a rest. And these are easy ways, but it's so inherent in our everyday. Well, I'm just trying to learn about the news. I need to know what's going on in the world, or I need to see so-and-so's baby because they don't send pictures anymore. I've got to see it on social media, all of these things. And so there's this feeling of, it's going to be okay if you miss a cat video. You can go back to those pictures, whatever it might be. And really just getting, again, out of that automatic. It's like it's putting in, like, let's close down some of that browser.
Yeah. Oof. That was something I really needed to hear. And I know this message is for everyone, but it definitely applies to me for sure. I mean, like, here's an example. And I think the news, especially with the way things are going today, I think it's important just to address that a little bit. Like, for example, I try not to watch too much news. And I know that people may find that irresponsible, but we should consider how you feel when you watch the news. I mean,
Right.
the last two times I turned on something that was happening, it was the riots, which of course, alarming, shocking to the system to see. And then also yesterday, I just saw this commercial airline crash in India where everybody died except for this one man. And it's like, these are horrible things. Like, yeah, I pray for them and I hope for healing for them. But gosh, I can feel what it does to me to see that. And it is taxing on the system.
I would say yes. And for me, I know I'm old, so I go into Facebook because that's the only way I hear about people having babies or buying homes or whatever. But that's also become a dumping ground for people that either don't go to therapy or have extra left over after therapy. People are
Hmm.
using it as their journals or to complain about something or to get into political rants or, all of these different things. And it feels like a dumping ground. So even though it's spotted with some different things that are fun and loving, there's a
Yeah.
lot in there that's like you're taking that in. So whether you're consciously or unconsciously bringing that on, it's also the comparison game, right? When we look at social
Hmm.
media, it's all of a sudden thinking, God, I would want to be in Bali right now. I can't believe they're in Bali. Or I didn't get to take a vacation this year. This person's been somewhere 3 times, or that person
Yeah.
just got a new house, or this or that. And so we want to bring it back into our heart and what we're here and what we want to do. And so it's hard to do that when we're opening all these extra tabs and then adding all these different layers of identity, pain, trauma, things that we've been through as well, that they trigger that too. And so it's how do we get to a loving place where we raise our vibration? And it's a lot easier when we don't have that stuff like working in the background, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so true. Well, before we get into the last questions I ask all my guests, is there any last messages you wanted to give on behalf of the Akashic Records and the important work that you're doing?
Yes. Give me a second here.
Sure.
I would say for everybody, I get being skeptical because I've talked about saying that I can do some really big things. It's a big deal to say that you can converse with someone's soul
Mm,
or with their loved ones that have passed. And so I can tell you that I'm a skeptic too, and I wouldn't believe it. And I don't believe it until it happens every single time. And so for each of you, know that like sometimes the things we can't explain right now, right? So we say it's magic or it's woo or it's this or that, is actually things that science can't explain right now. So, like, if you would have gone back 100 years and brought out a cell phone, somebody would have thought that was magic too.
hmm.
And so I think people are having things that happen to them, dreams, synchronicities, and things that happen to them every day that they can't explain and they write off. And so I would say open your heart to maybe there is magic, maybe not just because my last name is Potter, because that's not why I'm here, but I do love me some Harry Potter. But what I would
Same.
say is like lean in that like people like me do exist. And if you don't believe that, follow your own path. Like what's interesting to you. And for those of us that are like quantitative brained, like give me the numbers, show me the facts. There, if you search, I think his name is Irvin Laszlo, is a Nobel either winner or somebody that's been nominated. He's got books that explain the Akashic Records. And so, whether you connect that to what I do or what you can see, what can happen, I would say just open your heart to possibility and follow the things that keep you curious and in wonder, whether it's spiritual or not.
Yeah. And it's really fun.
Yeah.
Like, it's just fun to believe
Yeah.
that some of these things, are really truly happening and real and magical. And it just, I don't know, it brings me more joy.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. It's kind of like what if I kept learning the same lesson over and over for years, but then I talked to somebody like me or found my own truth and like was like, oh, I don't have to keep making that same mistake because I've been getting that test in many different ways. And so what if there was somebody that could help you with that, or you could figure out a modality or your own gifts to like make your life a little bit easier, to make things make a little bit more sense. I would say for as much as I have learned I don't know. There's just as much that I don't know. And that's a cool place to be because it's not stagnant.
So, so good. Well, reflecting on our conversation today, what is one key takeaway you'd like our listeners to remember about consciousness and the work that you're doing in Akashic Records?
I think it's exactly what I just said, is that I think there are a lot of things that have to do with consciousness that we can't explain right now. And so my thought is like, give everything a think, let it roll over you and feel like, does this feel true to me? And of course, do get your assistant Google and your chat GPTs and all of that and find the videos and the articles and the whatever it is. But also just think like, what kind of world do I want to live in? And is it a world where these kinds of information and these discoveries about consciousness truly exist? And that's the world that I want to live in.
Me too. Me too. And if someone's just starting their journey towards a deeper understanding of consciousness, where would you advise them to start?
So no one's going to love this answer, but I always say meditation because I feel like, again, what we talked about earlier, it's a way to listen, right? So instead of all the talking that we do, which is good, we absolutely need to get it out. I think it's a good way to listen to ourselves, to get into our core, and then potentially listen to spirit guides or any other information that comes through. But at the very least, get quiet and listen to yourself, connect with your body. One of the things that I have on my website is it's a PDF, and I'm working on a quiz that talks about like, what's the right kind of meditation for each person? Because I think there's a misnomer that you have to like sit in a quiet room, close your eyes, and like take all the ideas out of your head. And that's not it at all, actually. It's very much about letting those ideas and thoughts come up, seeing them go away so that you can eventually get to a place where your mind is quiet. But I think people think, oh, my mind never shuts off, or I can't just get to a place of calmness like that. And so what I would say is there are so many different kinds of meditations. And so finding out what's going to work for you today with the time that you have right now, or the way that works best with your mind or your body, there's a way to find that out. And so that would be the first step, I think, is meditation for sure.
Yeah, thank you. That's great advice. I think, if people are struggling just to sit there, because I think a lot of people feel so busy, the idea of just sitting there and doing nothing gives them anxiety, then maybe start with, a walk, a
Yeah.
quiet walk, or I really like coloring.
Yeah.
I think coloring's really fun, and you get to look at the colors and it's just kind of quiet. And I mean, there's other ways you can start if feeling like sitting there in silence isn't accessible to you, or just sitting there listening to some music isn't accessible.
I mean, same. I mean, that seems inaccessible to me, and I have to meditate. To do what I do to keep me like as a good channel. And so the quiz that I'm working on, you'll answer like 5 or 6 questions, and it's about like, like how you learn, how you communicate, things like that. And then what it'll do is it'll spit out 2 kinds of meditation that are best suited for you. And then I have Insight Timer as a free app, pulled 3 different kinds for each kind of meditation, 3 different meditations that are free that people can use. I don't make any money off of this. This is just in service to all of y'all's brains and all those tabs that are open in your brain. And so right now, while I don't have the quiz up, you can find a PDF that you can download it, and it has all the different, I've made it pretty broad, 7 or 8 different kinds of meditation and 3 meditations of each kind. But it will kind of walk you through like, would I rather be hearing something? Would I rather be visioning something? Would I rather be saying something? Would I rather be still? Would I rather be moving? And you can kind of tell from that PDF, okay, these are ones that might work for me. And so I would encourage you to use that, or, just find out more about different kinds of meditation that might suit you the best.
Awesome. Well, we'll be sure to link that information below. That's so cool that you're creating something like that, and very much needed, I think. My last question today is, in your opinion, what does it mean to live life consciously?
To me, living life consciously means not living my life from a place where I'm only hearing from my head and not my heart. And so the idea is feeling more like I'm living from a place of love, where I'm making decisions through my body, where my heart and my body and my brain sync, as opposed to living in fear, where my head and my ego that's trying to protect me. And there's a reason that we have an ego and protection. But living consciously really means listening to my heart, living through that place, and then also seeking my truth, whatever that might be.
Beautiful answer. Stephanie, thank you so much. This has been so fun and interesting and so helpful. I really, really appreciate you being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I mean, I just want to give you a shout out because I reached out to you. And so you heard the calling and you're like, let me talk to her and see if this is somebody that is for real, but also somebody I would want to introduce to my community. So a big thank you to you as well.
No, it's an honor to be reached out to. Just a little peek behind the curtain for everybody. I spent the first year and a half searching for all my guests, asking them to be on. But, I think as a testament to all of you who are listening and, of course, being a part of the Radcast network, my community is growing and people are starting to find me and be interested in being on the show, which is amazing. So thank you all so much for that. And thank you so much for having me interview you, Stephanie, because honestly, this has been really, really awesome. And you have so much to give. And I'm honored to be able to share it with the world.
Thank you. Thank you all. And what I would say, if there's any truth in this, or you have a friend that needs to hear some of these messages, forward that to them, because that's how I heard about this podcast, because I had a friend that sent it to me and said, this might be a good fit for you.
I love hearing that. Ooh, chills. Okay. Well, everybody, Stephanie's really helped us understand a lot about the Akashic Records and that they aren't some distant sacred texts for chosen few. I mean, they're an open invitation for us to connect to our soul's truth and remember who we are and help us to live life with greater clarity and purpose. So if you'd like to work with Stephanie, dive into your own records or explore the many resources she offers, visit her website. How do you say the first word?
I'm going to keep it easy for you guys. So because we're just introducing the Akashic Records, Alcyone is actually a star and there's a whole bunch of, information around that, but we're going to keep it easy. You guys can find me at stephanienicolepotter.com and it'll convert you over to my website name. But the name of my company is Alcyone Akasha.
Alcyone Akasha. Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much, because I would definitely have said that wrong. We'll link that there then. And as always, everybody, if this conversation resonated with you, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Please share this episode as Stephanie asked for, and I am asking for too. Share it with somebody to help them remember who they truly are. And until next time, stay connected, stay curious, and keep seeking clarity. Much love, and bye for now.
Before we part ways, I want to express my deepest gratitude to each and every one of you for tuning in. Your curiosity and openness make this journey all the more meaningful. As we navigate the realms of consciousness together, please follow our podcast for more captivating conversations. If you enjoyed what you heard, why not share the love, rate and review on your favorite platform, and help us reach more seekers on this enlightening path. And hey, the conversation doesn't end here. Dive into the show notes for additional insights, resources, and details about today's discussion. Your journey to clarity continues beyond this episode. Thank you so much for being a part of the Clarity to Consciousness community. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the boundless possibilities of your consciousness. Take care and much love to you all.